Okay, it's being recorded. 2, 3, 4. So looks like we have 4 people connected now. We are recording. I'm going to share my screen. So I'll show you. Okay. So, as I was saying, this week I'm going to schedule Zoom sessions Monday, Wednesday at 1 o'clock and 6. By the end of Wednesday, I'm going to poll the people that connect. And we're going to choose either 1 o'clock or 6:30. Majority wins. After that, I will hold one session on Monday and Wednesday, and those will be lecture, mostly, and record the session. So you can either join the Zoom meeting this week at 1 or 6:30. After this week, the students that connect will choose either 1 or 6:30, and they'll just send me an email. And starting next week, I'll meet at 1 time. Asynchronous. You do not have to join the live interactive session if you choose. You can access the meeting recording. With Camden County, that's going to be a YouTube. So when I send out my meeting invitations, they will have a link to a YouTube recording of the previous session. So, everybody got a copy of the syllabus. I attached it to the invite to today. Basically, this is basic A&P2. My email address is there. As we go through this, if you have a question or comment, just pose it as it comes to your mind. Don't wait for me to ask for comments. Just jump in. Also do that during the entire course of the semester. So the first blurb in the box comes from the campus handbook. Just describes the course. Prerequisite is A&P 1. So this is the basic version. Camden County offers 2 versions. They offer A&P and they offer basic A&P. So this is A&P 2. So you should have either taken A&P 1, the regular version, or the basic version. Textbook. This is important to know.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
So the book that I got when I did the A&P 1, is it good for this class or no?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the recommended textbook is on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Any textbook will do.
Yeah,
okay, so
I did take my
I don't
first
require.
one. Go ahead.
I don't require a particular textbook. Could everyone make sure you mute yourself, please, when you're not speaking? Okay, so my textbook policy. The school recommends a textbook. You're going to need a textbook. Okay, I'm going to see if I can fix this. Hold on. Okay, how to share again. Okay. Back to the textbook. Everyone's hearing me, hopefully. Back to the textbook. You're going to need a textbook. Any textbook will do. A&P 2, I presume you've had A&P 1. That textbook is fine. That's probably the school recommended textbook. If it's a Marib, any textbook will do. So you can use a book from last semester or the last course, or you can acquire a used textbook. You can get a link to an online textbook. Any textbook will do. You're going to need a textbook. The textbook gives you another opportunity to learn. There's going to be times we sit through a lecture and there's going to be something that you don't get from the way I break it down. The textbook is another opportunity. Everybody needs a textbook. Any textbook will do. Okay. Next, this is from me. So, my approach is I'm going to handle this class in a way that is basically equivalent to you taking an A&P class anywhere. For me, the basic designation, what the school asked me to do is to teach A&P 2, but add a grade booster. I need to add something to the class to give the students opportunity to boost their grade that wouldn't be in my regular A&P 2 class. Except for the grade booster, the class is going to be equivalent. Not only equivalent to my A&P 2 classes at this school, my A&P 2 classes at any other school, any A&P 2 class anywhere. Okay, so I'm going to deliver a class that's equivalent to you taking this course at Rowan, at Rutgers, at any major university. And if you've had A&P 1, you should be basically familiar with this. 4-credit course, a mandatory lab component. Underline this. This is a lecture-driven course. So this comes into play more because we're operating remotely than it did before. So you're going to have my lecture. You're going to hear my lecture. There's going to be notes from my lecture, but there's other resources. Okay, the material is not unique. You can learn it from anywhere. Okay, so there's a bunch of YouTubes. There's something called Crash Course. You could be a book learner and get it from the book. You can get it from a tutor. But this is a lecture-driven course. My exams are based on the lecture. So it's important that you pick up what my emphasis is in the topics, because my emphasis is what's going to drive the exams. And you should know this, the subject matter intense course. If you've had A&P 1, you know that this is a lot of information. Most students find that A&P 2 is a bit more difficult than A&P 1. Okay, so you have to put out a little bit more effort. If you don't, you can expect a drop in your grade. This is going to be a little bit more difficult than A&P 1. And this information you probably got from my email. We are working remotely all semester. For the labs, still a required element. But instead of a face-to-face lab, I'm going to have a series of videos. So instead of you doing the lab, you will witness somebody else doing a lab on a video. And I'll come back to that. Before I go on, my expectation is basically that you're familiar. Well, it's going to be a lot of expectations, but a major expectation is that you are familiar with the syllabus. Okay, so the syllabus is in your hands. It's going to be posted to the class's Canvas site. And you're responsible for basically knowing your expectations of the class. So when you ask me a question that's in the syllabus, I'm going to tell you to check out the syllabus. That's what I should tell you. My exams. 3 exams, okay? So the criteria for the class is, the major criteria are the exams, 3 exams, 2 hourly exams, 1 final exam. Within the next few classes, I'm going to give you a schedule. The schedule will show you what lectures are coming up, when the labs are coming up, and the exam schedule. 3 exams. Those are just the major criteria. Okay, also what I did to show you that basically I'm not a qualified online instructor. What I've done is adapted what I do in order to deliver this course during the COVID crisis. Okay. And instead of trying to transform myself into an online instructor, I'm trying to keep this experience as close to what you would have gotten if we were face-to-face in the classroom. Therefore, you're going to see some sections of my syllabus that are struck out. So you'll see what would have happened if we were face-to-face, but since we aren't, those things are no longer relevant. So I didn't delete them, I just struck them out. Final exam. The final exam will be cumulative in that about 60% of it will be on new material delivered in the last stage of the course. About 40% will be on material that could have been in exam 1 or exam 2. And the final exam is going to cover all the material in the semester. Okay, so the labs. Other instructors give like a minimum of 10 labs per semester, but those labs are like half a class. So if we were on the Camden County Blackwood campus or in the Camden County campus, every time we met, we would either start off in a lab, do half the period, and then switch to a lecture, or vice versa. Start off in the lecture, half a period, and switch to a lab. And there's usually about 10 labs per semester. I do 5 labs, but they're full period labs. Let's say, okay, so I consolidate the labs. So instead of having 5 half-class labs, instead of having 10 half-class labs, I have 5 complete class labs. The accountability is a lab report. So I don't do lab practicals, I don't do lab quizzes. I do lab reports. really, really, really simple lab reports. When we get to a lab, before lab 1, we'll talk about, or at lab 1, we'll talk about the lab reports. 5 labs added up about during the semester. 5 lab reports. They're graded, acceptable, unacceptable. Okay or not okay. You do 5 lab reports, you get 5 okays, you get 100 in lab. Lab is worth 10% or 10 points towards your course grade. So the labs are going to be super easy, but the provision is they're absolutely mandatory. I have to see 5 acceptable lab reports before the end of the semester. You do the labs. In this case, you look at the lab. You do a really, really simple lab report. You get 5 okays. You get 100 in lab. You cannot pass this course without passing the lab. Super easy to do, but if you don't do it, you cannot pass the course. So anyone who does not do the 5, I don't even calculate a grade. I just ignore everything, and you cannot pass the course. Students must pass the lab to pass the course. The lab grades are going to be super simple. I put them on like a 4th grade level. If you can do a good 4th grade report, you'll be okay in lab. The labs are due at any point from when they occur to next to the last day of the semester. So I can assign you a lab, we talk about the lab, you do the lab, or you look at the lab, and you can submit your report that day, or the next class, or the next week, or at any point. The labs are due at any point up until next to the last day of the semester. I used to do the last day of the semester. The problem was that the students who come the last day of the semester with some really jacked up labs, like that wouldn't pass the 4th grade criteria. But the semester's over. So if you hand in a lab that needs to be fixed up, even if you hand it in the next to last day of the semester, you can still fix it up and pass the lab. So this is what makes my course, or this course, Basic A&P 2. I do not do this when I do A&P. So what this does is I take 5 points off of each exam, meaning the weight. So the exams, so instead of being 25%, 40%, I downgrade the labs, I downgrade the exams by 5%, that I put here. So this is the difference between how I handle A&P 2 versus Basic A&P 2. Basic A&P 2 would be 25, 25, and 40. Basic A&P 2, I cut off 5%, and I introduce this item. So an abstract is just a brief summary of an article. So I choose an article. You go to like the archive of that article, you can see bunches and bunches and bunches of articles. You pick 3, you read the article, and you do a really, really brief 1-paragraph summary. So in the scientific world, these articles can get really, really intricate. So this is not really scientific literature, but this is like a version of it. And these long, intricate scientific articles. Usually, before the article, there's a brief summary. So you can read the brief one-paragraph summary. You can get an idea of what the article is about before you start reading and reading and reading and reading. So this semester, I've chosen the New York Times. New York Times on Tuesday, New York Times newspaper. On Tuesdays, they have a science section. So they have a section of the New York Times with all kinds of scientific articles on COVID, on dinosaurs, on health, on the killer bees, on anything scientific. So I'll give you a link to their archive, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of articles. Choose any three, read the article, and do a really brief, on-point summary. Just one paragraph on the article. So the scientific abstract is going to be 3 abstracts based upon 3 articles from the New York Times science section. You do the 3, and you got another 15 points. I did this last semester, and I think I didn't really grade them, except acceptable and non-acceptable. And if you do them, they're all acceptable. You know, if they're, unless they're super jacked up. So I didn't give these a grade. So you do it, you pass it, you get 15 points. You do the labs, you get 10 points towards your final grade. You do the abstracts, another 15, plus 25 points towards your final grade. So the difference between this and A&P2. A&P2, you get 10 easy points. Basic A&P, you get 25 easy points. Grading, standard grading. As far as I know, Camden County doesn't do the pluses and minuses, which I hate. So if you get so by the end of the semester, this all breaks down to math. So I have your lab grade, I have your abstract grade, I have your grade, I have your exam grades. I take your exam 1 grade times 0.2. Your lab grades, 100. 100 is going to get you 10 points. 100 times 0.1. The abstracts, 100 times 0.15, that's another 15 points. Your exam 1 grade times 0.2. Exam 2 grade times 0.2. Final exam grade times 0.35. You add them all up, and you get a number. So you multiply, and then you add, and you get a number. And that number is going to fit somewhere in here. So by the end of the semester, it just becomes arithmetic. So someone who gets a 79.4 is going to get a C. A 79.5 is going to get a B. So these are the ways to get points. The only ways to get points are your lab, your abstract, your exam 1, your exam 2, the cumulative final. Okay, so back to my exams. My exams, all the same format. Okay, so you don't get fooled by some foreign format. The format to the exams is all the same. I do 1/4 multiple choice, 1/4 definition, short answer, 1/4 fill in the blank, 1/4 essay. The essays, 3 essays. 1 5-point essay, 2 10-point essays. Each of the three, you have an A or B option. You can answer number 1A or number 1B, number 2A or number 2B, number 3A or B. 1 5-point essay, 2 10-point essays. The format of the exams are all the same, so you have to get used to the format of the exams. Okay, so these things you should know. These are the topics, and these are the corresponding chapters in the recommended textbook. One of the reasons that I do not require a text, these things are universal. Any textbook will have these. Any A&P textbook, you're going to have these. There'll be different chapter numbers, but the basic information is going to be there. So by maybe the third class, I will give you a schedule, and the schedule will show when the lectures are going to occur, when the labs are going to occur. We'll spend one class on the periodical. Before each exam, we'll have a pre-exam review. So my approach to being kicked off the campus, having to teach remotely, so the way I've chosen to operate, before a lecture, you'll get the Zoom invitation. Whether you attend whether you connect or not, you'll get a Zoom invitation. That Zoom invitation will contain my notes. So if we're in the classroom, what I would do is print out these notes on file cards. I would stand in front of the classroom, talk you through the lecture, write stuff on the whiteboard. You sit there, you take notes based upon what I say and what I give you on the whiteboard. What I would do is I would do an outline of the lecture before I give it. Then, if we were face-to-face, so the lecture will take 50 minutes or hour and 10 or hour and 15, or whatever it takes. At the very next class, what I would do is give you a quick key review of the previous lecture, about 20 minutes. So you would have your full lecture notes, and then you would have the concentrated version, the 20-minute version. The purpose is to make sure you capture what I think is most important, my priorities. So if there's something that's said once, but never ever repeat it, if some term you see on the board once, you never see it again, as opposed to things that are repeated numerous times on the board numerous times, show up in my initial lecture, show up in the review. So since we're not face-to-face, what I do is I give you my notes. So instead of me holding my notes in my hand and using my notes for me to stay on point, I give you the notes. Before the next class, I will reissue those notes highlighted. So instead of connecting and the first 20 minutes being a review, I'll give you the review. I'll give you my notes highlighted so you can see what my emphasis is. Keep in mind, this is a lecture-driven course. So my exams are going to be based on the lecture notes. You have the notes, the original version, the highlighted version. That's the basis of my exams. You probably are going to need additional sources. Textbook is your first stop. YouTube might be a stop. Group study, tutoring, whatever source you can come up with. But the lecture is going to drive the exam. Since we are working online, I consider the exams open book. So the other pre-exam thing. So there's ongoing pre-exam review. The ongoing review is the second version of my notes highlighted. When I give you the schedule, you'll see that the class before each exam is an open class. That's a pre-exam class. That gives you the opportunity to ask questions, to probe, to clarify. Depending on class participation, so I'm not going to prepare anything. So by then, the exam is made, the lectures have been given, the exam is made, and the exam will come up the next class. It's your opportunity to ask me questions, things that you believe will come up on the exam and you're not sure of. So if people connect and nobody asks any questions, then there's no reason for the class. The class is simply propelled by questions. I had a experience back when I taught general biology. There was a young lady who slept through every single lecture. Pre-exam review, she was wide awake and had that little pen going. I'm pretty sure her grade went up by a complete grade because every single thing mentioned in the pre-exam review, that was on the exam. She got all those right. So the pre-exam review is a good opportunity to sort of prepare yourself into the exam. Keep in mind that you're working online, so I consider my exams open book. I don't have a lot of integrity issues because everything is open book. So you get the exam, you know what the format is, you go through the exam, you should have studied, but you have your notes, you have your textbook. The limiting factor is the time limit. So for my exams, a quarter multiple choice, a quarter definition, a quarter fill in the blank, a quarter essay. If you're not prepared, there's no way to get through the exam in the time limit. The time limit is 1:40. Seems like a lot, but if you don't know anything, you're not going to be able to look stuff up and digest it and regurgitate it in 1 hour and 40 minutes, because this is just too much stuff. So I consider this an open book test. The only thing that doesn't fly, basically, is plagiarism. Plagiarism meaning basically cutting and pasting from some online source. Especially in the essays, it's really, really easy for me to detect. I read an essay, I see some strange wording, doesn't seem like this came from a student, doesn't seem like it came from my lecture. I cut and paste a sentence into Google, and voila, your entire essay pops up. That means you get a 0 on the essay. So the exams are going to be open book. So that just means I prepare the exams the usual way, but then I review what I prepared. I don't want any easy Googling, any easy Wikipedia. So anything that you could just cut or type out of my exam, put it in Google, and get an answer. I try to eliminate the easy stuff. All the stuff is online. I mean, the world is online. Yes. Go ahead. Questions? Comments? Sounds like somebody lost their nerve. Anyway, the test is basically open book. In the past, I have penalized people because instead of writing the essay, they just copy something from something that I find easily. And those people get a 0 on the essay. So, what I'm going to do, and you'll see this in my invite to the second class. So basically, today's class is just to go over the syllabus and to make sure you have the ability to connect. So the syllabus is always going to be there. So basically, I want to make sure you have the ability to connect. And you will see that probably this class, I'll turn it into a YouTube. So students who don't connect now, have not connected now, and don't connect to the 6:30, they have a YouTube. Okay.
Excuse me, Prof.
Go ahead.
I know you have said about the labs that you are going like to make us see a video how to make it, but we're not really going to do it at home. Is this right?
Correct.
So we're not going to do any microscope work or dissection work. We're not going to do it.
Not going to do it. Can't do it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. This was my
Okay,
question.
so yeah, so this department, the school has made no arrangements for you to do a take-home lab.
Okay. I mean, I have done my other class in at the OCC, the Ocean County College, and actually I have done dissection at my home and many stuff, but it's okay. That's more easy actually.
So I'm teaching this semester. I have one class at Camden. I have one class at Community College of Philadelphia, and one class at Rowan. I'm going to mute you, but if you want to say something else, just unmute yourself, okay? Okay, so I'm at 3 schools this semester. One of the 3 schools has made arrangements with a company that provides do-it-yourself at-home lab kits. This school has made no such arrangement. Rowan has made no such arrangement. So out of the 3 schools, only one have gone that route. So at that school, the students will have an option. They can look at the video, or they can do one of the take-home labs. Camden County College, they have no take-home lab. And next class, we'll do more orientation. Next class meaning Wednesday, not later today. So later this afternoon is just going to be a repeat of this session. Next class, we'll do some more orientation, some more introduction, and then I'm going to give you a practice lecture. I call it a sampler lecture. It's going to be a really brief, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the most, discussion on a topic that's not anatomy and physiology. It's not A, it's not P. A practice lecture that doesn't count. The purpose is for you to hear my presentation before it doesn't count, before it counts. The purpose is to hear my presentation before it counts. So what I will do is I will provide you the notes. You have the notes. You'll hear me go through the notes, just like you would in a regular lecture, but this one doesn't count. Short lecture on a non-A&P topic, followed by a brief test, a brief exam on that lecture. Immediately follow the lecture, I will give you a brief test on that lecture. Test doesn't count. The purpose of the sample exam is for you to see my testing format before it counts. But this is abbreviated. So it's a few questions that are multiple choice, a few questions that are definition, a few questions that are fill in the blank, one essay. But keep in mind, this is just a brief version of a full exam. The purpose is for you to see the format. Multiple choice, definition, short answer, fill in the blank, essay. Instead of having 3 essays, you'll have 1 essay. Right after the talk. So you have the notes, you have the talk, and you'll do the exam. What I do is I issue the exam in PDF, and then I give you an answer sheet. So you look at the question on the PDF and you type the word answer sheet, and you type your answer into Word. One of the things I'll do with the essay is from this class, I'll take one or more of the better essays and I'll distribute them. So you can compare my grading of your essay to one of the better essays. You should be able to see if there's an essay better than yours. So 10-point essay. If somebody gets an 8.5 or a 9 or a 9.5 or a 10, and you get a 6 or a 7, you should be able to read their essay, read your essay, and you should be able to see why they got the high grade and you didn't. So that's going to take place at our next class. I don't really have a way for people who don't connect at 1 o'clock or 6:30 to do the sampler. They'll see it, but I'm not sure how they'll do it. Maybe they come up with a way to do it. So it looks like we have 6 people. We have like 24 people registered. We have 6 people connected now. We'll have some more people that connect at 6:30. Also keep in mind that at our next session, I'm going to ask you to email me a preference. Would you rather our live classes be at 1 p.m. or 6:30? And then starting next week, we're just going to go at one time.
Professor.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hi. So I don't really know how this is possible, but I also have chem scheduled for tonight at 5:30. I work a full-time job, so like right now I'm working and just listening to you go over the syllabus. So I wouldn't normally be able to log on during this time. So I wouldn't be able to log on at all. I'm gonna also talk to my chemistry teacher and see if she's also doing a lecture through YouTube. And if that's the case, I might just switch between your Zoom link at 6:30 and hers on Mondays. Would that be okay?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
yes, the asynchronous aspect is supposed to be for people who cannot connect.
Okay.
So
So that's an
I'm gonna
option if it doesn't work out, I guess.
right. So if you can't connect at whatever time we designate,
Hmm.
then you have the YouTube.
Okay.
But for testing on exam day, I'm going
I'll
to
make it
revert back
work.
to on exam day. I'll revert back to 2 Zoom meetings.
Okay.
So on exam day, you have the option of 1 o'clock or 6:30, or making arrangements with me.
Okay.
So you can make arrangements with me if 1 o'clock doesn't work and 6:30 doesn't work. And those arrangements, either you could take it the day before, or you take it the day after, you could take it on a Saturday.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason for that is I need to monitor the start time and the stop time.
Gotcha.
So whatever time we designate, whether it's 1 o'clock or 6:30 or some other personalized time, I need to provide you the exam and know when you start, and then I know when you should stop.
Okay.
Okay, because the open book, the limiting factor, and we're limiting the cheating.
Right.
We're not stopping it.
Right. You're
Can't
just
be-
limiting it. Can't be stopped.
but you have an hour and 40 minutes to do the exam. So you can do it at
Right.
1 o'clock, at 6:30, or you can just make an arrangement.
Okay.
Some people take it earlier, some people take it later, some people take it later at night, some people take it on a Saturday, some people take it instead of going to church. You have an option.
Okay. Cool. At least I
Okay.
have options. That's good to know. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I will be sending you a invite to our Wednesday session. I'm going to keep it for this week only, 2 sessions, 1 o'clock at 6:30, and by the end of, or at the end of Wednesday, I'll ask people to vote. You can vote for 1 o'clock, you can vote for 6:30, and majority wins, and that winning time is when we will hold our live classes. We're going to record everything and turn it into a YouTube. Any questions, comments? My only other thing, and I'm going to probably emphasize this next class. This is going to be a lot of material. Well, no, actually, 2 things. I'll do this one first. This is going to be a lot of material. I'm going to share again. So most students who run into difficulties and try to resolve their difficulties, the problem is they try those options too late. So whether it's finding a tutor, finding a usable textbook, doing a group study. Usually they do that mid-semester, after the first exam, after the second exam. By that time, they have worked themselves into a hole. Every semester, I have a person who scores a 35, a 38, a 41 on the first exam, and then they try to kick it into gear. But it's really, really difficult to work your way out of a hole once you're in the hole. You only have 3 exams. So don't get into the hole, because you don't want to spend the rest of the semester trying to dig your way out. So whatever you're going to do it early. Increase your study time. Find a tutor. Find somebody who took it last semester. Find a partner to study with. But whatever you do it early. Don't play catch up. Other thing. Last thing. Okay. So I gave you this as an attachment. Believe it or not, some students can be a real pain in the butt. Mostly because they fall on this side and not this side. Personal responsibility, motivation, self-management. So just give us a look. And make sure you're on the right side. I've already had a couple of meetings in past semesters with the department head plus a Camden County student who thought they were graded unfairly. And in both situations, the student takes no responsibility for the grade they achieved. It's all somebody else's fault. Enough said about that. Anything else? If there's nothing else, either later tonight or tomorrow morning, I'll be sending out a class email with the invitation to our Wednesday sessions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.